Hello again, Reverend here, and I'm going to be talking about the velocity layers, the sliders, and the sensitivity control. Each MIDI note has a velocity attribute which represents how fast the key was hit when the note was recorded. Now, what you want is a note that was played hard on your MIDI keyboard to bring back a sample that was played hard, and a soft one to bring back a sample that was played softly. So the more velocity layers and the more samples you have, the more expression you will get from your keyboard playing. Now, when you learn that ample guitars are using 5 layers of samples, the first thing we might ask is, why are there only 3 faders right here? And this pretty much explains it. There are 4 different ranges, and the final layer is reserved for triggering the pop articulation, and it has one value of 127 in it. And this is more or less the default setting, 32, 64, 96 for these faders here. From 0 to the position of this first fader is 1 layer. This is the second layer, this is the third layer, and everything else is the 4th layer, with the 5th reserved for triggering the pop. So the remaining values after this fader don't require another fader. So that's why we have 3 there for 5 velocity layers. Now, if you take a look at this again, you'll see that in the range 1 to 31, 4 samples are called, and 4 different samples are called when the velocity is between 32 and 63, assuming these were your settings. And now, when these samples are played, they're cycled in sequential order. So you get A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, round and round, as long as your velocities are in this range. And something to point out here is that if you have a ridiculous setting or an incorrect setting, let's say you have your faders down here somewhere, and you're playing your keys fairly hard, and you look at the velocities after you've played a few notes. Let's say you bang in a few notes and you find that you've got 50, 60, 80, 50, 60, 80, 70, like that. All of the velocities are in the last layer, even though your playing has plenty of expression and range in it. So this is where you would set these faders to control the response of your MIDI keyboard and react to your playing style. So if your lowest was, a 20 or a 30, somewhere around here, and then in the middle here, and something like this, that would give you something. If you're playing hard, these higher settings would make sure that you trigger samples from these other layers as well. Because if everything is down here, and all your notes are in the higher range, you're never going to benefit from these different sample layers. You'll just be triggering either this layer or possibly these 2 layers, because you haven't got the faders set correctly. So that's how to use these. Just look at the velocity you play with and decide whereabouts you're going to place these to make sure you access the different layers available. Now, sensitivity controls the amount of volume reduction between the layers. For example, if a note is played very hard and sensitivity is set to 100, and you have, let's say, a total headroom of minus 30 dB. Well, a note with a velocity of 64 is going to give you a volume reduction of minus 15. And so each layer is spread across that minus 30 total headroom. If you now set this to 50%, the total headroom is going to be minus 15, and a note played with a velocity of 64 will result in a minus 7 dB volume reduction. So in this way, you're controlling the amount of difference between each layer. So if you want less of a dramatic jump between the volumes of each of the different layers, that's how to use the sensitivity control. And another cool thing is if this is turned to the minimum, sensitivity no longer controls volume at all. And I have a little example of how that can be of help. In this file, I have a tremolo study. It looks like this in the staff view. And what I have here is the thumb tremolo, etc. throughout the whole piece. It's a very famous tremolo study. Now, if I select this note, or any thumb note, you can see up here it's a velocity of 100. And if I select a group of tremolo notes, they're all at 70. And if I show it in this view, you can see 100, 70, 70, 70, 100, 70, 70, 70. These are my velocities. That's the tremolo up here. And these are my thumb notes. So let's hear what that sounds like with sensitivity set to 100%. And I'm going to give this more or less the default settings. I think it was 96. So let's hear it just by as what the default sounds like. Okay, not bad. What's happening is with a value of 70, I'm in this range all the time. Every tremolo note has a value of 70, so I'm getting I, J, K, L, I, J, K, L cycled around and around. And in the staff view, it would be something like I, J, K, L, I, J, K, L, and so on. Well, with sensitivity turned all the way to the minimum, so that it no longer controls volume at all, check out the difference. First of all, I think you'll hear more volume from the tremolo part. Okay, now when volume is not being controlled by sensitivity, you can do this. You can take your draw tool and basically say, I want to have a sample come from the lowest sample layer, then the middle, and then one from the high. And you can do this and do this. I'm just going to quickly go through a whole bunch of these. So what I'm doing is telling velocity to fetch from here, and from here, or possibly this 3. And in effect, I'm enlarging the sample pool available to me. Instead of having just this group IJKL cycled around, I can now have, for example, 12 samples with no weirdness from the volume, because sensitivity is no longer controlling volume. So let me just carry on. I'll try to be quick here. And when I get to, a couple of measures further on, I'll leave the values at 70 so you can hear the difference. And it's not bad at 70 because I'm still getting 4 samples cycled around. And the objective of this piece is smoothly and evenly. This is where the guitar teacher would smack your wrist if you had one fingernail sounding not like the others. All right, so let's go back and hear this and look for the difference. When we get to this is where I'm selecting a sample from each of the velocity layers, and I'm using velocity to do it with sensitivity off. And then when you get here, I think you'll be able to hear the difference. It's just a tad more mechanical here. So this is one way of improving something like this tremolo study. Well, it's subtle, but I think you'll agree you can hear the difference, and by enlarging the sample pool, you just get that much more humanization and realism, and you can probably exaggerate this even more. I could probably ask for a sample much higher up. For example, let me do something like this. Make sure I get the low group and make sure I get one from a louder group. I don't know if that's audible from right there. Okay, that's how you would use the sensitivity control to give yourself a larger sample pool. And thank you all for watching.